Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back into the NBA Front Office Show. As always, we've got tons of stuff going on around the world of the NBA. Studio Stu in the house joins just in time for the show to start. He says he's ready to go. Joining me as always is Keith Smith. Keith, now a secondary figure behind Studio Stu. How, how, how are you doing?
And we should just let him run the whole show and leave.
That's it.
Probably be our most watched show we've ever had, and probably, quite honestly, the most intelligent opinions of any time our show is given as well. So
I'm just gonna step out. He can run the show. Everything will be
he's ready,
fine.
man. He is ready. So he's gonna come start pawing at you here any
That's
second
right.
now. I can tell. Yeah, man. We got NBA Finals Game 5 tonight. Didn't know that there would be one, but the Mavericks kicked the Celtics behind. So pretty good in Game 4. So we get a Game 5 coming tonight. We'll see if Boston can get it done and close out. So I hope, because otherwise all the pressure shifts really to the Celtics fully if they don't get this one done. That's generally how it goes in these series. You can throw one away, you throw two away, it starts to become a little bit more of a problem. So we'll see how it goes. I kind of think we're going to get get a little bit of a party going here tonight in the TD Garden. So we'll see, though. We'll see if Dallas really found some stuff that works or how it all plays out.
I am officially out on the finals. I'm not watching regardless. I don't care what the outcome is. I will not. The offseason has begun. It's all over. It's done. And that's my approach right now to the NBA finals. But it is, I think you're right, in terms of momentum, in terms of pressure, all of those things. It certainly is a momentum swinger where that pressure would flip to Boston should the Mavs win. But I'm not expecting that. I have not looked. I'm assuming the Celtics are a massive favorite for tonight's game.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't fully looked. I can take a look right now and see what it says. Yeah, Celtics 6.5. So that's a pretty big line, I would say, for a finals game, especially. So, yeah, I think it's Game 4 went just completely wrong for Boston. It was one of those ones where I always go back to the Greg Popovich quote of this is a regular season thing that he was talking about. I think he said 8 games where you have 8 games a year where everything goes wrong, 8 games a year where everything goes right. And then the season is really decided in the games in between. And if you can win one of the ones where everything goes wrong, great. If you lose one of the ones where everything goes right, well, it happens sometimes. So it's yeah, I mean, it's just one of those games. I think for the Celtics, they didn't hit shots, they didn't defend, they quite frankly punted the game very early on in the third quarter. I had tweeted at halftime like that was the first half, one of the worst halves of basketball they played this year, certainly in a very long time, and make a run early in the third quarter. And if you can make a run, great. If you can't, just get guys out of there and call it and move on to Monday. And that's really kind of what they did. And all the credit in the world to Dallas. They showed up and played terrific. They brought great energy. Now, my question, if I was a Mavs fan, would be, where was this the first 3 games? Like this level of care on the defensive end, this level of focus, this level of commitment and competition. Like where was all this? But we'll see how it goes now in Game 5. I'm cautiously optimistic, and not even cautiously. I'm pretty optimistic. I'm pretty confident they're going to close it out tonight in 5.
The flow of a series tends to suggest that the Boston would win tonight. We need to talk about what that would mean, because this would mean something for free agency that people are not understanding this, Keith. And so we need to get into that. Before I get there, though, I just want to give everybody a quick reminder. If you haven't checked out the basketball bulletin just yet, go check it out. We've got a ton of pre-draft stuff that's up there. All kinds of other stories and things like that. I've got video work going up there. Keith has his My Guys list for the NBA draft is up there. You guys can check out the link in the description down below, basketballbulletin.substack.com, but also have the Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel, which you guys can go check out. I'll put the link in the description down below. Run over there real quick. Subscribe, turn on those notifications. I've got something coming out later today on Klay Thompson and the Warriors. All kinds of stuff going up there on the Basketball Bulletin YouTube channel. So everybody do us a favor, go subscribe there as well. We would appreciate it.
Let me say one thing too, because it's very related to a lot of the content that's up there is draft related. People were asking a lot in the Friday live show. We will be doing some draft stuff ahead of the draft. Just right now, with the season going on, we're not quite ready to get there yet. So we're gonna so if you're really like, can you guys talk about the draft? Really get into the draft? I know it probably hit half or more of our audience as Lakers fans are like, I don't want to root for the Celtics to win, but if you want draft coverage, root for the Celtics to win so we can turn into full off season, full draft coverage. But we are going to get our buddy Bryce on ahead of the draft. To come in, he'll give us a bunch of thoughts. We're gonna probably just throw a million questions at him and ask him to answer those. It'll be a really fun show with that, and then we're still hashing out our live draft coverage and what that'll all look like. A little different with the two-night draft this year for us, so we're gonna get all that figured out and stuff. But a lot of great stuff up there on the site on the Basketball Bulletin, and a lot of good stuff to come here on Front Office Show too.
Yeah. Absolutely. All kinds of great stuff coming. Again, the season is over for 28 teams. So we're moving ahead to the off season for most of us. But again, that last lingering couple of games here that we've got left in the season, once we get through those, then we're going to get fully into all this draft stuff and everything else. It's going to be an interesting draft night, and we'll talk a little bit about the draft. We'll get into it when we talk about some of the picks and everything here. But I think one of the things that people are not understanding enough. I talked about this on the Lakers Nation podcast that went out this morning, and I'll talk about it a little bit for the Basketball Bulletin as well. But I think the easiest way to put this is, like, if the Celtics win tonight, free agency starts tomorrow, and I think that's, like, people don't know that. I'm getting so many people that are going, "What are you talking about?" This is one of the most fascinating things of the changes to the CBA. I think this is one of the most interesting things to see. What are the consequences of doing this? Both on the positive side and the negative side. What comes out of this? And then what are the unintended consequences? We always see unintended consequences from changes the NBA makes, but we could legitimately have tomorrow player X agrees to deal with team Y. That could happen.
Now, let's be super clear, though.
For their own free agents.
With their own free agents. That's
correct.
That is we're not going to hear Paul George is going to the Sixers or LeBron is going to the Hornets. Like, we're not going to hear stuff like that. But if it is, it's like the guy I've been using for the standard example is Pascal Siakam. Yep. Veteran player, very much expected to resign with the Pacers. He may be one of the early agreements we get leaked out. Now, you won't see the team share this. You won't see anything official signed because that all still has to wait till July 6th, unless it's an extension. Extensions work a little bit different, and there's only one kind of extension, and that's guys who are coming up on a contract that is ending right now. Those players can sign those extensions. So that would be like a Siakam if he was extending versus re-signing. But now in that case, if it was an extension, Pacers might tweet it out themselves. Like, you'll probably hear about it from one of the newsbreakers first, but then the team may announce it, and then we'll just add because people always say, "When will this be official? When will this be official?" You know it's official when the team tweets about it. Like, that's when you know it's done. Whether it's a trade, a signing, whatever it is. But for your own free agents, guys who are definitely going to be free agents this summer, you can start talking contracts with them at 12:01 a.m. Eastern. On the day after the finals end. So to your point, finals end tonight on Monday. First thing, 12:01 Tuesday morning, I guess, or night, however you feel like you look at that. You could start talking with your own free agents. So yeah, I'm very curious to see who's the first one. How does this work? What does this look like? How does it all come together?
So the point is that we could get breaking player X re-signs with this team for X amount of dollars tomorrow. Like, that's crazy. And I think it's a big advantage to incumbent teams. I do think players will have a sense already of what else is going to be out there for them. Sure. And I think if you're a team that wants a player from another team, you're making it clear to that player through whatever means necessary, whether it's through an intermediary, another player from your team is going to talk to them, carrier pigeon, whatever you're going to do, you're going to make
Mark Cuban's app, Cyberdust.
There you go. Something like that. You're going to make it clear, hey, come June 30th, this offer will be here for you. So I don't know if it changes things that much in terms of, Like, are players really waiting till June 30th and just totally in the dark on what other teams may offer them? No, I think they're going to have a pretty good sense. But you could have, when you look at guys with player options and stuff, you could have guys where, hey, he's not picking up his player option, and now he's re-signing with this team for X amount of money, or whatever is happening. All of these things could start coming, which means it could be a little bit less of a kind of dam bursting situation on June 30th, because some of this stuff will get taken care of ahead of time. But I think it's going to be interesting, not only watching who gets deals, but who doesn't get deals done. I think that's going to be a big thing too. And I also wonder if we may see teams play hardball here a little bit, Keith. Are there teams that may say, hey, look, this is your offer that's on the table. If you wait until June 30th to sign this, though, this offer is no longer on the table, to try to put pressure on players to get off the market before they're really on the market. I think it would take a specific situation for that to happen. In general, I don't see a lot of teams doing it, but I could see it as a negotiating tactic in some situations.
Yeah, and that's going to be very, like you said, situation specific. Because if that is a player like a Paul George, he's more likely to be like, okay, cool, then I'll just leave.
Yeah,
if that
exactly.
is a kind of a like Isaiah Hartenstein, that's probably not a great example because he may just go too. But like those kind of players may be a little bit more like, oh, okay, right. Let's see where that is. Like a real example could even be like a guy like D'Angelo Russell, right? The Lakers may say, here's the max we're going to. We're willing to offer this right now. Now, to be clear, he technically can't have any conversations legally with the Lakers until he declines his player option.
Right.
So guys with options are probably not going to be heavily involved in this change because a lot of those guys just wait until their option is due, which is a week and a half or so from now for most of those guys. But we may see a handful of guys say, all right, you know what? I'm ready to go. That's why like Siakam is just the perfect storm because we all know he's going to resign. We all know it's probably going to be a max deal. We all know he's probably not entertaining going anywhere else, and there's no option involved. So, and now I don't want any Pacers fans being like, you said, and he didn't sign by.
Wait, we're just saying it can happen now.
Can happen, yeah. It doesn't mean it won't. And honestly, it may perk me up a little bit if we're a week from now and nothing has happened.
Yes,
with a few guys, if they've been able to do this, that might be a little more like, that's interesting. What's going on there? But yeah, it's just a new dynamic and something we'll be obviously following and following very, very closely, and we'll break all down here if we need to.
Now, one of the guys that we're going to be keeping a real close eye on, of course, is Klay Thompson and his situation with the Golden State Warriors. They obviously do not see eye to eye on a contract. Keith, I tend to not worry too much about who a player is or isn't following on social media, but apparently Klay unfollowed the Warriors and all that. Like this, players do that across sports when they're trying to like send a message sometimes. But also, I think half the time, if not more, we're just not paying attention to who they're following and not following until suddenly they're a free agent. And then we're like, oh my gosh, they don't follow this team. Well, maybe they never followed that team or whatever. But in the case of Klay Thompson, it does seem like there's some stuff going on here. Shams Charania reported this morning that Klay's going to be listening to offers outside of the Warriors and will be checking out the free agent market and seeing what's available out there. Given the new CBA that was specifically targeted at the Warriors and to another degree the Clippers, is this it? Is Klay moving on? Is that where I could, because cap wise it may be tough for the Warriors to pay him or at least justify paying him.
Yeah, you're right. There's been a ton of stories out there linking him to the Magic, to a handful of other places. I just, part of me, whenever it's this specific of a situation with a guy who's been with a team forever, had a ton of success, obviously he's going to get his number retired by the team. I start to wonder, really, are we really going to break this up? What I think we're going to see the Warriors ultimately do, I think they're going to, and there's been a lot of stuff within this where I think we're going to see them waive Chris Paul. Because I am taking them, Joe Lacob at his word that he wants to lessen the tax bill, and if he can, get out of the tax entirely. So I think we're going to see them waive Chris Paul rather than trade him and take back $30 million. I think they waive him. There's been a lot of buzz that they may trade or waive Kevon Looney
I've seen
in a
that.
straight salary dump. So I
3
think
million
that,
guaranteed on his deal.
yeah, I think there's a good chance that happens. I think Guy Santos, who's non-guaranteed for slightly more than the minimum, that's 50-50 because that can be one where it's only a little bit more than a roster charge. Just keep him. That one I'm not too worried about. Gary Payton II, who actually, he is the first guy with a player option due, and that's due on Wednesday, is his deadline. So one of the things we've heard about him is that he's going to opt out, but then re-sign, and he may come back for like 10 or 12 million total, but spread over 3 years. That's one of the rumors that's out there with him. Then that really leaves kind of the Klay Thompson situation. So you do all that stuff. You get off of Paul's money, Looney. You knock Peyton's number down by, I'm just going to make it up, but say $5 million. Then you bring Klay back for half what he made last year. So the 40 or so million he made last, say you bring him back for 20 to 25 million. You're probably sitting in range of, you're definitely going to avoid the aprons as long as you don't go get real stupid after that. But you're probably going to avoid the aprons, and you may be out of the tax entirely, which is pretty remarkable considering how deep in this team would be. But you'd really be Steph. And then I know this sounds crazy to say it this way, but it'd be Steph and a couple of upper mid-range contracts with Wiggins and Green, and then a bunch of lower contracts. That may only last for a year because then you got to extend Kuminga. Moody's due for a new contract too. You've got a lot of other stuff to deal with, but I think that may be where this heads with the Warriors.
If you're Klay and you've got a team, let's say OKC says, "Hey, Klay, here's 30 million." Is that enough, you think, to, if the Warriors are really kind of in a spot where they can offer maybe 20, and that's if they do the things that you're talking about here, say goodbye Kevon Looney, who I don't think is a terrible value at $8 million.
No.
Chris Paul, obviously nobody wants to pay him 30 million, but they say goodbye to those guys. Then let's say the Warriors are offering 20 and OKC is offering 30. What does Klay do then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I would still stay if it was me. Like, I think at that point I wouldn't want to leave. Like, that's not enough of a difference. Now, if the Thunder said we'll give you 30 million a year over the next 3 seasons, then I might be like, all right, see you later, Warriors.
Right.
It was a good run. But if we're talking like almost, if he's in like full on year to year mode, or it's like, we'll give you 30 million for each of the next 2 years. Because I do think the Thunder, I don't want to completely detract things. I think they might be operating in about a 2-year window with some of this stuff, just because 2 years in, that's when it's Holmgren and Williams and those guys start hitting extension time. But I think you'd have to really blow me away. But I don't know. Maybe he is just done. Maybe he's like, I'm just done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I feel disrespected or whatever it may be. And he wants out of there. I really don't know what to expect with him.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting situation to watch. And again, one that, I mean, could be resolved as soon as tomorrow. We could hear, the Warriors and Klay, they come to a deal, and you never know how things are going to look there. But it'll be something to certainly keep an eye on. And Keith, we've talked about it before, but it's one of those situations. I don't particularly want to see Klay in another uniform. It's like Elijah Wan with the Raptors, Ewing with the Magic. I mean, Jordan with the Wizards to a degree, right? Like it's that kind of stuff that you just, it feels weird. Tony Parker with the Hornets, like it's weird. And if they could avoid it, I'd like to see that ultimately be the result here. But with the new collective bargaining agreement, the Warriors are dissuaded from spending and continuing to spend. So that's going to be a factor in all this.
Well, and if you can get out of the tax now and then stay out, that can reset the repeater tax, which is extremely harsh under the new CBA. It's worse than it was for those teams in the old world with that one. So that becomes like a big thing. You could also reset things as far as the potential frozen draft pick stuff that's coming. You could really reset you're kind of resetting all of your tax and tax penalty clocks, if you will, if you can get out this year and then stay out for a year or so. So that's a big one. And then last thing I'll say on Klay too, because I have seen the response around social media of people saying like, who cares? Like, he's just not good anymore. 18 points per game and was still almost a 40% three-point shooter. He's not the Klay that he was. He's much more of a 3-4 now than he was a switchable guy who could defend anybody 1-4. He's not switching and defending smaller guards anymore, anything like that. Like a big part of the Warriors run was Steph always defended the weakest guy because they put Klay on the best ball handler and just used him as the shutdown guy that way. He's not doing that anymore, but 18 points per game on almost 40% three-point shooting. Yeah, everybody can find a place for that guy. It's just we're letting our priors influence. If this was just a blind box of, hey, this is what we think this guy could give you. And I get it. He's slowing down. It may be more like 15 points per game on 37% three-point shooting next year. And still pretty good. That's still a 20 million plus player in my opinion. So I don't want to go too far with the whole he's not good anymore, because I think that's players are either great or they're trash. And it's like there's a whole wide range in between there where guys live.
We have to live for some reason in these world of extremes where everything is either the greatest ever or it's the worst thing ever, right? And the truth is often somewhere in the middle. All right, we've got the Raptors picking up Bruce Brown's option. We knew that was happening. Now, trade coming. Really, I should probably put a question mark there because there's never a guarantee a player is going to be traded, but they're picking up the option not necessarily to keep Bruce Brown, but rather to trade him and use him as a trade chip. And that does make sense. As I recall off the top of my head, he's at what, $23 million for this coming season. So that's not a bad expiring contract to be able to use out there on the trade market. I think he's a player that still has some value. I think some of the shine has been taken off of Bruce Brown once he left Denver. I don't think he had quite as prolific of a season this past year, but nonetheless, he's a guy that could still help a lot of teams. And with his salary expiring, I think there's going to be takers out there on the market. The question is, of course, what are the Raptors going to do? Who ultimately do they go get? What are they trying to do right now? Are they looking to try to add pieces and win right now? Are they kind of caught in limbo? That's going to be interesting to watch what the landing spots are for Bruce Brown. But I do think they'll ultimately find a deal and get something done. But clearly their plan is not to keep him. It's to pick up this option and move him.
Yeah, I think the challenge for the Raptors is they've just got an awful lot of guys at his position. Even with like Gary Trent coming off the books, you have RJ Barrett, you have Grady Dick, you have Ochai Agbaji, you have all those guys that basically play the 2-3, and that's what Brown is. He can play someone against certain lineups, especially if you're like they have him out there with Scotty Barnes. Barnes would be your primary ball handler, the playmaker, so you'd be okay with that. But he's really more of a 2-3, and that I think becomes all right. Let's go. And I think when they extended Kelly Olynyk late last season, before the season ended, that sent a message of we're not going the cap space route. We are going to try to do something in the range of let's try to get these guys. Let's pick up Brown. We'll try to put him in a trade, do something that way versus all right, well, we're just going to decline his option. We're really bottoming this thing out around Barnes, Barrett, re-signing quickly. We've still got Pirtle. Now I think it's much more into, all right, this may not be a tear it down around those guys. It's let's try to flip this thing quickly. And if we can turn his 23 million into a guy who can really play and come in and be a big part of things for us right away, let's get that done. So that's what I'm looking for out of the Raptors this summer.
All right. And so that's another player to keep an eye on that could be on the move here. A player who apparently is not going to be on the move, whether it's right or wrong. The Nets not interested in trading Mikal Bridges. Keith, we've talked about it a bunch, but if they weren't going to take that Rockets offer, they're just like, they're not moving. Like if you're any other team, you make the phone call, but it's got to be in the back of your mind, like, man, if they're not going to trade him for that like we're not going to beat that offer. So, the Jalen Green plus, I want my picks back, all of them. That offer, I don't see anybody beating that. So, I mean, clearly the Nets aren't that interested in trading Mikal Bridges. Keith, you and I both agree that maybe they should look into trading him, and we don't see him as like a true 1A guy like they appear to. But for the time being, the Nets seem to be set on hanging on to him.
Yeah, here's the other challenge with Mikal Bridges that I don't think gets talked about enough in this. And no, I'm not going to the whole he's older than you think he is thing like I have a million other times. This is actually about his contract. he's on a great contract right now.
Sure.
Problem is, great contracts are very hard to extend because he's probably not making enough for an extension to be worth it for him. He's like kind of in the same position Jalen Brunson is in, except Jalen Brunson at least has a player option after next season. So hey, he'll be able to go into free agency. And for what it's worth, I just posted the Knicks offseason preview. We didn't even write about Brunson in that one because I don't think the idea of him extending is even remotely realistic. I don't think there's any chance he's going to do that. So what has really happened here, I think, with Mikal Bridges is you're kind of putting yourself in a almost like a 1 or 2 year window of, are we going to build a really good roster around him? And I'm not saying they can't, because maybe they've got plans. Maybe they've got something in the works that they're going to come in and we're going to be like, all right, here we go. But that 24.9 million in 25, 26, simply not a big enough contract to extend off of for what Bridges is as a player. And whether I like it or not, he's probably going to push a lot closer to a max deal than he is anything that they could extend him off of with that, which would be, adding roughly another 11 million or so to his contract. Like, I just don't think that's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. So I don't know, like what are the Nets doing, Keith?
I don't know. Look at that big number at the top.
Right? Is that really where we're at? Like, could we even see a Ben Simmons trade where somebody just takes him on? Right. Like, could this be a Zach LaVine landing spot and the Bulls just say, hey, give us an expiring Ben Simmons?
What's that? I mean, only because it's the Bulls, I'll say no, because they don't seem to have any interest in going that route. They'd probably more rather, I'm not even going to probably, they would much rather have like Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder, and Cam Thomas than they would, hey, just clear LaVine off the books and let's start a rebuild. They'd just rather have a bunch of guys who can keep chasing that 10 seed in the play-in. But Simmons, 40 million expiring. All right, that's got value to some teams.
Sure.
There's a couple teams out there, like Portland, for example. Portland might be like, yeah,
Jeremy
give it
Grant.
to us. You'll take back, will we take back Jeremy Grant? Will you take back, I don't know, Malcolm Brogdon? Like, can we find something workable that clears up our books? Because Portland is a tax team starting the summer. Oof. Like that, barring a trade at the draft, obviously. And stuff.
How?
If like you want to pull up their sheet, I can show you. But
yeah, I'll pull that up now. That feels like it shouldn't even be possible.
Yeah, it's the long story short. What that is, took back a lot of money in the Dame trade, and then took back even more money in the Drew Holiday trade. So they're locked into, because remember, they took on DeAndre Ayton, took on Brogdon, took on Robert Williams.
Yeah,
they have Grant on.
They paid Jeremy Grant
a bunch of money. Anthony Simons at over 20 million per year. They don't have any contracts that like scream individually like, oh no, like these are horrible. And I get it. Some people don't like the Grant deal. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as some think. The Ayton deal is not that bad either. So there's none that are like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But yeah, I mean, you've got, what is that, 6-7 guys that make over 10 million. Like that's how you get there. That's how you get there. That's how you get to be a tax team going in. Because the other thing is not on here is their draft picks, and they have 2 draft picks too that will add in. Because once you make them and you're going to sign them, they will be taxable as well. So yeah, it runs into. So that's where I think you could maybe see a trade where it's like, all right, we'll take Simmons if you want. I'm just making this up, but Jeremy Grant, Matisse Thybulle, like, okay, great, that clears 2 contracts off the books for us, and we'll have to do something else to get. We'll have to kind of probably give away Malcolm Brogdon in another trade somewhere, but then we're out of the tax, and then we clear 40 more million off the books in the next summer, as we will probably be absolute rotten and terrible. But in the back end, maybe we have Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey coming in the next year in the 2025 draft. You throw them in with Sharp and Scoot Henderson, and all of a sudden that doesn't look so bad in Portland, right? You could flip this pretty quickly.
Before we move on from the Nets and the Blazers and teams stuck in weird cap situations and things like that, and teams fighting for play-in spots, did you see the stuff going around about the Bulls, that the Bulls actually turned down a top 10 pick in this year's draft for Alex Caruso because they wanted to make the play-in this last year? Bulls, the holes punched in the walls of Bulls fans have got to be adding up at this point. Like, There were teams who legit wanted Andre Drummond, and they could have got some kind of asset for him, and now he's like, the rumors are out there that he wants to move on. So you're going to lose
for teams offered like 2 and 3 second-round picks.
Yeah,
for Andre Drummond. It wasn't going to be great, but it was like
but it would have
barely any matching salary back, and here's a few second-round picks, and they were like, "No, we need them." Like,
all to make the play-in. It's crazy.
Well, to your point, we should probably start a drywall business in Chicago because we could probably clean up.
Right. All right, let's go here. The Pelicans, meanwhile, would like Jarrett Allen, but they also would like to not give a max contract to Brandon Ingram. So I was thinking about this today, Keith. I thought, gosh, the Pelicans, the word out there is they don't want to pay Brandon Ingram an average annual value of more than that $50 million or so that he'd be getting on this kind of max contract. It's not for certain that that's what Brandon Ingram wants. I'm sure it's what he would like, but it makes me wonder, with 1 year left on his deal, does that actually suppress the value of Brandon Ingram on the trade market? Because whatever team trades for him has to be willing to give him that next contract. And if Ingram does want to try to push for that higher number that I think a lot of teams would be comfortable with, I wonder if that depresses the actual trade market that he could have. And that could make things a little bit difficult on the Pelicans, where I think expiring contracts have value in this market. With a guy like Brandon Ingram, you ideally want him on the right kind of a contract. And if you're going to trade for him, you'd like to have him long-term as a piece. But given his injury history and what a team would have to pay him on the max, it could be kind of tricky negotiating what exactly that contract could look like. So I do wonder if the Pelicans may struggle to find the right team to send Brandon Ingram to as they look to rebalance their roster. Maybe it is as simple as just Jarrett Allen in a trade for Brandon Ingram, and we put pieces together and there you go. Maybe that's it. But I do wonder if the market won't be quite as kind to Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans as maybe you would think at first glance.
Yeah, it was very funny. One of the things that I saw somebody threw out there, I can't remember where I saw this or heard it, was Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum for Jarrett Allen and Darius Garland. And obviously the Pelicans throw in a couple picks and just call it done. And both teams kind of reset around their star guys who will be their long-term guys. I don't know. Quite frankly, I mean, that's kind of sounds crazy, but I hate that idea. I'm kind of like, all right, sure, why not, I guess. The Brandon Ingram conversation is going to be really interesting, and we're going to find out what do teams value. To me, he is a little bit like a younger DeMar DeRozan, where he is a very good all-around player offensively. He's fine defensively. He's not going to kill you, but he's also you're not crafting anything around his defensive skills. He's just kind of okay. But Ingram can shoot it better, like more consistently will take shots from range than DeRozan will. But that's kind of where I think we're headed. Now, what's weird is DeMar DeRozan, it feels like everybody's like, yeah, $30 million a year for him. Sure, he was great last year. Why not? It doesn't seem to show any signs of slowing down. But the big difference is DeRozan, even at his age, pretty good bet to play 75, 80 games a season. Ingram, you're starting to feel kind of lucky if you get 55, 60 out of him.
Yep.
So that's a major challenge. And that, I think, as much as any of the skill set, I think the skill set fit can be a lot better other places. I think what's happened in New Orleans is Zion's role has grown enough where he needs to have the ball a lot. And he needs the ball a lot in those face up from 20 feet away spots where Ingram also wants to work from. And you're just not going to do necessarily very well with two guys who do that on a lot of teams, especially not with some of the other roster construction stuff they have going on, like Valanciunas kind of just being there on the block for the most part and those kind of things. So that part is, I think Ingram could recapture his value somewhere else, more so than New Orleans. But yeah, I kind of get the idea behind, we're not giving you $50 million a year. So then to your point though, if another team feels the same way, are they going to be like, well, we're not giving them $50 million a year either?
We don't want that.
If you have to have, then we're not giving you whatever you think you need in trade.
Exactly.
This probably turns into both players need a change of scenery. Let's make a trade happen. And probably with the Pelicans having to give a little something extra to juice it, to get whatever the deal is done. Jared Allen part for New Orleans, sure. I mean, I feel like we're a year or more into hearing this, that they would love to have him. Oops, I think I disappeared for a second there.
Yeah, I think you dropped out. I was over pulling up a Pelican salary screen
I might have bumped here. Looks like we're stable again. So
okay.
What I was saying is they want more of a shot blocking presence next to Zion Williamson, much more than what Valanciunas was. So Allen makes sense. I think ideally people keep going to, well, we'd rather have Miles Turner. If he's not available, he's not going anywhere, obviously, not with the Pacers at the level they are. And there's just not that many shot blocking, rim protecting fives that are out there that can also space the floor. There just is very few of them. So you get Allen, and maybe you finally create what you were hoping to create with Zion and Jackson Hayes back in the day, with two rim threats, and figure it out that way.
Yeah, I pulled some of the numbers, and while Valanciunas is still a monster on the boards, and the Pelicans were definitely hurt whenever he was off the floor on the glass, he really wasn't doing much to negatively impact teams' field goal percentage at the rim. And that's an area where the Pelicans want to be a lot better. And so that's why I do think, Valanciunas is just fine as a player. I like him. I like his game overall. I kind of like there's a bit of nostalgia there in terms of the throwback, style that I like. But I do think they move on from him. I think he winds up somewhere else. But I saw that he's not going to play for, I believe it's Lithuania this summer, because he wants to, capitalize on free agency here and doesn't want to risk anything. I think this is probably
at least in the Olympic qualifiers. Correct. He may play in the Olympics if they make it and his free agency is resolved. But yeah, he doesn't want to risk getting hurt or anything and have that negatively impact his free agency.
If I'm a team, I'm saying, man, I don't want you risking getting hurt either. So we're going to wait till after the Olympics to sign you.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Imagine if that was like, everybody's like, nah, sorry, LeBron, we're not interested until you finish the Olympics. And then we'll talk to you in the end of August. Man. LeBron would probably be like, okay, cool. That's when I was going to decide anyway.
That's the thing. These like the Olympic, and I don't want to get onto an Olympic tangent too much here, but I can't wait to see it. It's going to be a blast. I'm going to be holding my breath the whole time. Just don't get hurt. Do not get hurt. And I know guys are playing pickup anyway. They can get hurt just as easily playing in one of those games or whatever. It's not like they just sit on the couch and bubble wrap all summer. But man, it's scary when you've got training camp like a month and a half away from the Olympics. And you're hoping that the players obviously don't have any kind of injury there.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm nervous for like Jason Tatum and Drew Holiday. And then it was reported, wasn't one of our stories, but over the weekend they reported that Derek White is high on the list of guys they'll invite if Kawhi Leonard can't go. Here's sense. Just to answer, because I know the question's going to come. I don't think Derek White is one of the best players in the NBA, but it's become increasingly clear for the last few spots on Team USA, they want versatile guys who can defend. Like they're not necessarily interested in just bring all the best talent, because they've seen that doesn't work. Like that's not how you win gold medals anymore. So a guy like Derek White is a good fit, because Kawhi, if he's healthy enough to play, he's gonna be like, you just need me to play 10 minutes and go lock up the opposing teams, whoever. Great, got it. I'm done. I'll do that. Derek White's in the same boat. He's not the same player as a healthy Kawhi. I fully understand that, but it's like, you just need me to go in there and defend a point guard who's giving our team all kinds of fits and pick and roll. Sure, I got it. I'll go do it. So that's why he's being invited. But my bigger point is 2 Celtics, or maybe even a third now. Now you're talking playing until late August. And they open training camp along with the Nuggets earlier than anybody else, because they're going to Dubai next year. It's going to be an extremely short offseason for these guys, where it's like, just get through the Olympics, and then the Holiday, Tatum, and maybe Derek White, just go sit on your couch for a month before any of this stuff needs to happen. So
we saw how draining the quick turnaround can be. I mean, we saw it with the COVID shortened seasons when the season it got extended and then started right up again. I think there was like a 70-day gap or something between seasons. And that was it. And that you saw guys that were starting to wear down physically from it. So that would certainly be a concern. But plus side, we'll have basketball in July and August to watch, NBA players to watch during that time. So that would be exciting.
Plus USA.
Right.
Let's go.
Let's get it done. Get it done. I have at this point. I'm just saying JJ Redick, like in my sleep, in my nightmares. JJ Redick met with the Lakers over the weekend. We've had over a month of JJ Redick stories or Redick adjacent stories, but there was a week long reprieve of Dan Hurley, and now I can no longer wear Hurley surfwear, unfortunately. But JJ Redick did meet with the Lakers over the weekend, and we'll see. I mean, it could just be they're waiting for the finals to end. From what I've heard, the meeting went well, and now we see where things go. The Lakers tried to push back a little bit on the idea that they have to have a coach in place by the draft, which technically they're right. You don't have to have a coach in the front office, can still make the decisions, just like the front office is going to make the decisions otherwise. But you want the coach to have a voice in the process. I think they're just trying to put out there like, oh, no, everything is fine. No problem at all. We're all good. And even if we don't have a coach, no big deal. That's totally normal. Pay no attention to the flames over there. I think that's kind of what that is. So I think they would like to get this done before the draft, and it could just be they're waiting for the finals to end. But right now we're on what I've been calling Redick watch. We're just waiting to see, does the offer come in? Does this get done? How quickly does it happen? And then, because I think we're all expecting it's going to ultimately be him.
Yeah. So without the Hurley interlude stuff that happened there and, didn't end up happening and whatever, I've continued to believe all along that it was probably let me rephrase, because it wasn't all along, because I was surprised, like everybody else was a little bit, when it was like, whoa, Redick really is maybe going to get this.
Right.
I've continued to believe since that point of, they're probably just waiting until the finals ends. Like, it will not shock me in the slightest if the Celtics win tonight, if sometime Tuesday we're getting the tweet from Woj. I hope maybe 11 a.m. Eastern maybe is workable for you a little bit there. Maybe noon, maybe even 1. Like, wouldn't that be nice? But
no. Let's do tonight with 10 seconds left on the clock.
Oh, the clock. Yeah, but then when he says something like, what a great series for Jaylen Brown, then the Celtics should
go as soon as that buzzer sounds, it's all good. So 10 seconds left, the tweet goes out.
Yeah, but then if he talks at all, right, then it's like, because they're going to come back to him. Like, what'd you think of this series? If he's like, I thought Jaylen Brown was great as the MVP. I want the 17th pick in Boston, and no questions asked.
It would have already been announced though at that point. So then we'd be good.
But it would be announced. But now he's the Lakers coach.
Oh, you're saying he'd be official? Oh, okay. I'm saying like they'd announce he intends to sign, and then he officially signs it the next day. That's what I'm saying.
Anyway, because you know how I feel about tampering. But tonight, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, I'm not going to be surprised if at some point it was. I think it would be hilarious if it was the game ends, they kind of do their stuff, they kick it back to JJ Redick and crew for hey, final words on the finals, and JJ Redick's like rips the shirt open and is like going to the Lakers, right? Like, that would be so
like
much
NWO.
Fun. Yeah, right. He doesn't have to necessarily do the steel chair like I wanted at one point, because that we already saw him. Yeah, then maybe he could do like the Hulk Hogan like arm wobble drop thing where he's like, you thought you had Dan Hurley, I was almost out, but here I am, and he hulks up and gets
where he does the test of strength. He starts pumping his cheeks.
Yeah, he gets all fired up. I now we're
points the finger.
That's it. Yep. Then gives Mike Breen like the rock bottom or something and drops him.
No, he does the leg drop. The big boot followed by the leg drop for Hulk Hogan. Yeah.
Press slam on Mike Breen.
Run,
Mike
Doris,
Breen's
run.
Like, why am I catching strays here? Am I getting beat up?
No.
So but it won't surprise me if sometime, maybe it will be tonight, maybe tomorrow, we get if the Celtics close it out, we get JJ Redick is finalizing a deal to be the Lakers' new coach or whatever it may be. So and that's just get it done. Like, let's just move on to whatever is next for every party involved.
For all of us.
Yes.
For all of us, please move on.
Yep. Just another reason for Lakers fans, come to the dark side. Come to the dark side. Root for it to be over. Rip that Band-Aid off. Take the pain as quick as you can. It's like the spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Your spoonful of sugar is JJ Redick on the back end.
Like I said, My sentiment is the NBA season is already over. I've moved on to the postseason, and if it gets announced with 10 seconds left, nobody's going to talk about the finals at that point anyway. It's all going to be about JJ Redick and the Lakers, which would be hilarious to me. So I'll take that outcome, I guess, at this point, because it feels like we are in the alternate 1985 version of Hill Valley, where Biff Tannen and owns a giant casino, and Marty's mom has implants.
Let me ask you, did you see this guy posted this? It was before game 4, I think it was. He posted, gonna enjoy this a little longer. And it was, it's a Lakers fan, and he very tongue-in-cheek posted, it's the Celtics and Lakers, like side by side picture with 17 Larry O'Brien trophies. And then there's the one in-season tournament trophy on the Lakers one it made. I was dying laughing, and people were like, it was so funny how many people went to him with man, respect for like this was really funny. And he goes, hey, he goes, everybody's gonna laugh. He's like, someday you'll win one too, and we'll all laugh at it too. Until we don't, 30 years from now, people probably like, hey, in-season tournament trophies are cool, and who cares?
We'll be counting them up. But what does it mean for LeBron's legacy? Next on ESPN.
Next here when we come back from this commercial break.
All right, let's go here. We have a couple things left. Well, maybe just one thing. Yeah, just one thing. All right, Monty Williams back as the Pistons coach. They apparently decided not to pay him to go sit on a beach somewhere, and Monty Williams will indeed return to the Detroit Pistons next year. Can the Pistons stay healthy? What do they do this offseason now? Obviously, some changes in their front office. Maybe significant changes come into the roster. We know Cade Cunningham's probably going to get a max deal. But outside that, it feels like there's a lot up in the air in Detroit. And so who knows what this roster is going to look like to start next season. But Monty Williams will be back at the helm. They're paying him a lot of money. And so the Pistons say, you know what? We're going to keep you around and see if we can make some changes and right the ship, so to speak, next season.
Yeah, a couple people seemed like we're expecting that the Pistons were going to put out some form of announcement or something. I never really expected that. He's under contract, so there's no real reason to do that. What really was the trigger on this was they hired Fred Vinson from the Pelicans to come in and be on the coaching staff. You're not probably doing that if you're firing Monty Williams, because that'd be weird to hire a new coach and be like, by the way, this is one of your assistant coaches, and who knows if they want to work together or not. Mm-hmm. That's a sneaky good hire for this team. He's one of those shooting gurus in the league. He's been credited with helping a lot of guys. Herb Jones, most recently, becoming a pretty good shooter under Fred Vinson's tutelage. So Pistons obviously got a few guys who could use some work on their shots. So hey, maybe baby steps, right? Baby steps in the right direction. We don't have to do it all at once. So, let's go. One other thing, I didn't want to go back to the Jared Allen story. Yeah. Because we got completely sidetracked into talking about other stuff and Ingram and the Trailblazers somehow and Ben Simmons, and all kinds of craziness. Part of the Jared Allen stuff that's out there is it came out, I believe, as Mark Stein reported it. Donovan Mitchell wants him to keep Jared Allen. Oh, yeah. He really enjoys playing with him, likes having him as a lob threat available to him when he does play with them. So not going to say that means anything one way or another, but it certainly doesn't hurt Jared Allen's chances of sticking around in Cleveland.
Yeah. Yep. Good point there. If, of course, teams are going to be calling, trying to find out if they can get Jared Allen. But if Donovan Mitchell is telling them, hey, I'm about to sign this new deal with you guys, you're keeping my guy Jared Allen, right? Maybe he winds up staying after all.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. I think that about wraps things up for today. Appreciate everybody for joining. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Again, go check out the Basketball Bulletin. I'll drop those links in the description down below. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.